What's going on, guys? So every now and again I like to touch on a topic that tends to create some controversy, and I'm going to talk about that today. I have a commenter who left a interesting comment. I'm not going to say it was very polite, but it really doesn't matter. It's YouTube, you can speak your mind. Basically saying that, he doesn't really like the channel because some of the content I put out in regards to, I guess, what we consider to be a luxury fifth wheel. Now, there is some backstory to this, and I think even though he says he doesn't watch my channel, he made an interesting point related to the Van Lee Beacon that I reviewed for like 6 months. So, let's talk about that. Why didn't we get a luxury unit that was similar to the Van Lee Beacon and instead opt for a Coachman Brookstone? So hang tight, I'll be right back. All right, so if you've been watching my channel for, probably a little over a year, you're probably familiar with the Van Lee Beacon that we reviewed. Van Lee provided me a 6-month loaner to basically spend time in and use and see what we, thought of it. It was beautiful, beautiful beacon. It was the 42 RDB. So it was a rear living room, front bedroom unit with a kitchen in the center. And if you didn't check out those videos and you're new to the channel, you should definitely go check it out because that thing was absolutely gorgeous. At the time, and this was prior to COVID, that unit carried an MSRP of around $142,000, but you could probably get one for maybe around $115,000. And the one that I was reviewing was pretty much loaded. It had a generator built in up front. It had a lot of interior amenities spec'd into it, but you could still get additional things like disc brakes and things that mine just didn't come with. All that said, a lot of folks were I think, taken back whenever, we sent that unit back and we told you guys that we were getting a Coachman Brookstone. Because at the time, if you compared MSRPs, a Brookstone, pretty much what we have here, without all the upgrades, without all the customization that we did, without the 3 ACs, without the generator, stuff like that, it would cost you probably, well, it had an MSRP of around, I'm going to say $72,000 to $75,000 and a sale price closer to the $60,000 mark. And at the time, it was a relative bargain for what you were getting. Brookstone, even though it's the highest luxury model that Coachman makes, it's not anywhere near what you would consider to be, competitive directly against something like a Van Lee Beacon. So, in terms of woodwork, the interior design, things like that, this is more mainstream versus a Beacon definitely leaning more towards that full-time luxury type of RV. So a lot of people, such as this viewer, were kind of taken back whenever we, showed you guys that we were working with Coachman specifically to design a Brookstone fifth wheel. And at the very beginning of that collaboration, one of the comments that I had made is, I did not want to work with a manufacturer that built an RV that was so outside of what most people could afford that it was eye candy with no, real ability for most people to actually get one. So I felt that the Coachman Brookstone was far more in line with the budget that most people would spend their hard-earned money on. And to prove that point, we bought this unit. No, it wasn't we're going to give it to you for a certain amount of time just to talk good about it. It was that we were paying just about what you would pay if you were getting a pretty good deal on it at a dealership. The difference is we were able to spec in a lot of things and do a lot of customization to our unit that hopefully will appear later on in Brookstones if you're looking for this type of floor plan. But all that said, this specific viewer basically made the point that, we keep referring to our Brookstone as a luxury fifth wheel. And I don't know if I've actually ever done that. I'm sure you could probably go back and prove me wrong if I have, but I don't think I've ever actually said that this is what I would consider to be a luxury fifth wheel in the sense when you're comparing it against certain products like a DRV or a New Horizon or a Lux or a Van Lee Beacon. In my opinion, and the way I've always kind of presented this is that this is kind of the everyman's fifth wheel. Now, I understand that there are a lot of folks who are going to say, this is way outside of what they would ever spend on a fifth wheel, but I would argue to say that if you're looking for a large full profile fifth wheel, that this is probably in that budget that you would be looking to spend. Now, This specific viewer, left me a really long, like 6-paragraph comment, basically stating that, we talk about how awesome this is, yet at the same time, the Vanley Beacon was truly a great fifth wheel, and going to something like this was a huge step down. And I disagree, only because the Beacon, as nice as it was, did not come in a floor plan that worked really well for our family and our camping style. To me, it's more of a luxury fifth wheel for a couple who plans on full-timing it in their RV, and in many cases may not move it that often. Basically wants one of the nicest RVs from an interior perspective that you can get, especially if you want that exterior full body paint, which isn't offered on a Brookstone. So, as much as some folks may disagree with our choice of going with this, if I didn't have a YouTube channel, this would be the budget of fifth wheel that we would spend our money. This would be the type of fifth wheel that we would spend our money. It's great having a YouTube platform and, potentially working with manufacturers and building something that's way out there that no one else could afford. I mean, I see YouTube channels all the time where folks are really, really going out of their way to spend their money on things or to get things that viewers would never have an opportunity to enjoy. And the goal of this was to work with a manufacturer that produced a quality product with really great features, but at a price point that an RVer looking for this type of RV, this size of RV, this length, height, width, weight class, would be able to potentially budget for. And to be able to offer features and amenities that actually make sense. Suspension upgrades, brake upgrades, different things that made sense. Having rack and pinion slides all the way around, having a 10-inch I-beam drop frame, the things that I talk about that regardless of, appearing on a Coachman Brookstone, I'm always pleased when I see them on other brands that utilize the same construction perks. Asdel sidewall, things like that. So as much as I think some folks would like me to say that, we should have gotten a Beacon, we should have gotten a DRV, we should have gotten a New Horizon, those units would have never been in our budget category. They never would have fallen into a category of RV that we would have realistically looked at purchasing because they are outside of the scope of what we would have budgeted for. And even though I likely could have gotten one because of YouTube, because of my channel, because of my platform, I still don't feel that that would have been the right decision. It would have been great eye candy for people watching the channel, and a lot of folks out there probably would have purchased one. You don't know how many folks have actually sent me pictures of their Beacon and other luxury RVs that are more expensive than what we would have spent, just showcasing the fact that they leaned that way because of my channel. That being said, I get a ton of folks who send me pictures of their Brookstones, who send me pictures of their Bighorns, who send me pictures of their Solitudes, all sorts of different brands that fall more into this price category because it's more realistic for the typical family. And as much as people want to say that I sway away from the typical family, when it comes to budgeting, when it comes to what I spend my money on to, have for our family to enjoy, I'm very much in line with what I think a lot of folks that watch my channel actually are willing to spend their hard-earned money on. And that's one of the reasons why I was very particular in terms of who I wanted to collaborate with and what I wanted to spend my money on when it came time to buy our next fifth wheel. So I hope that makes sense to you guys. Again, there's always going to be naysayers, and I do brush it off. So I don't want you guys to think that I just respond to all the negative comments that I get. But this specific one did make sense, and I think it was worth responding to because a lot of folks said, you know what, you showed this super luxury RV. Why are you showing a Brookstone now? Why did you get a Brookstone? Why didn't you get a DRV? Why didn't you get a Lux? Why didn't you get a Beacon? And that's the reason why. It's as nice as they are, it's just like owning a Ferrari or a Lamborghini. As nice as they are, practically speaking, and from a value perspective, they didn't make much sense to me. They don't make much sense to me. They're not something that I could see myself owning because that's not what our lifestyle is all about. It's not about the flashy aspect. It's about the value. It's about getting what you need for what you're trying to accomplish and having some luxury perks built into it. A lot of folks might think this is way overboard in terms of luxury fifth wheels go. For us, it was kind of the perfect fit. And the fact that I collaborated with them and we were actually able to turn out a product that had some really, really great design cues and different elements, I think made a lot of sense. Real quick, financially speaking, if you're talking about like a Vanley Beacon today, that same 42 RDB that we had, it probably has an MSRP closer to $200,000 now and a sale price closer to $140,000. So, You know, when it comes to that average RVer that is budgeting for an RV, I think that it is well outside of the scope of what a lot of people would pay. This unit right here probably has an MSRP closer to about $110,000 now versus that $75,000 to $80,000 that it had then. And, you know, a sale price on this is probably closer to the mid-80s now. You know, everything's gone up in price, and I don't know if it's ever going to come back down. There's so many supply chain shortages. Shoot, a lot of people don't realize that the cost of oil rising doesn't just affect gas. It affects everything that uses gas to get where it's going and everything that relies on gas to appear on a shelf or at a factory. So the price of everything goes up when the price of gas goes up. Anyways, guys, I just wanted to touch on this topic because I did feel it was worth commenting on. I did feel that, you know, a lot of people will say just shrug it off, but I felt it was a valid concern from a viewer who claims he's not a subscriber, but obviously has watched a lot of my videos. Anyways, guys, I sure hope you've enjoyed this video. If you haven't had a chance, please take a moment, subscribe to my channel, give me a thumbs up, and we'll talk to you again very soon.